Hello, wrestling fans! Here I am with another blast from the past as I review WCW Fall Brawl 1996. Took place September 15th, 1996, and it was pretty much like the first great pay-per-view WCW put on since the New World Order had begun 2 months earlier. Well, the show kicked off with a singles match as Chavo Guerrero Jr. making his first WCW pay-per-view appearance. He took on Diamond Dallas Page. Now, a month before this, at a Clash of the Champions, Page was defeated by the late Eddie Guerrero for the Battle Bowl ring that Page won earlier that year at Slamboree. But Page, Page attacked Eddie after that matchup at the Clash a month prior to this. And he attacked Eddie, and I think he still had possession of the ring, even though it wasn't his anymore. And Chavo was looking for some payback on behalf of his uncle. Chavo got off to a hot start early in the match. Page eventually turned it around, hit a top rope clothesline. Page hit an impressive belly-to-back throwaway suplex. Page, while on the mat, Page applied a Cobra Clutch. And then this hilarious moment. Oh boy. You might say this was very silly. Page is trying to pick Chavo up, and Page thrusts his pelvis in Chavo's face, and he says, "Bang, bang, bang!" And Chavo, I guess, took exception to it because he started throwing fists into the midsection of Diamond Dallas Page. Eventually, Chavo hit a dropkick from the top rope. He did a leaping Hurricane Rana as he jumped in the air and caught Page with a Hurricane Rana. Page had a spinning powerbomb, or spiral powerbomb. Chavo attempted a backside, and Page countered by stepping on Chavo's foot. Chavo turned around, Page clasped him in the diamond cutter and pinned him to win the match. Good opening matchup to start the pay-per-view off. Next up is a submission match between former tag team partners as Scott Flash Norton did battle with Ice Train, accompanied the ring by Teddy Long. Now, these two men were previously were tag team partners earlier that year, known as Fire and Ice. A friend of mine referred to them as Icy Hot. Well, Train hit an impressive splash on Norton. Norton hit a DDT. Train with a great power slam, and eventually put a Fujiwara armbar on Norton, but Norton wouldn't submit. Train hit a senton splash. Norton hit a spine buster and put Train a Boston Crab. Teddy Long came up to the apron. Norton tried to attack him. Train applies a full Nelson, and Norton apparently submitted, and Ice Train picked up the victory. Well, this match wasn't too impressive to me. Ice Train, I don't know how many chances he was given in WCW through the years. I remember first seeing him in 1993 match by Thunderbolt Patterson. I forgot if he has since passed away or not. I forgot if he's still with us or not, Thunderbolt Patterson. And Train didn't get too far from 93 to 94, and he ended up in a short-lived feud with Ron Simmons. He came back here, he was teaming with Norton, and he was matched by Teddy Long, and I forgot when he ended up leaving again. I think he came back again, but I'm under a different name, and I can't remember the other name right now. Some guy once referred to Ice Train as Ice Cream. Silly him. Next up was a matchup for what was announced as the Mexican Heavyweight Championship. I don't know if it was for the AAA Championship, as Juventud Guerrera challenged Conan. Conan had recently joined the Dungeon of Doom and was accompanied to the ring by Jimmy Hart. Funny thing is, Conan, and I'll get back to Conan later on, Hoovy had come to the ring first, but he, as he's looking towards the camera, he trips over the ring steps right by the ring. So there's a Botchamania moment. The match got underway. Conan hit a German suplex. Hoovy did a triple jump spin kick from the apron of the other ring that was out there. Conan countered Hurricane Rana. Well, actually, Hoovy out on the floor. Hoovy tried for Hurricane Rana off the guardrail, but Conan countered by powerbombing Hoovy on the floor. Conan did that signature rolling clothesline I enjoy. Conan hit a wheelbarrow suplex. Hoovy hit a top rope 450 splash. Climbed the top rope again, did a twisting splash. Conan hit a top rope, well, a muscle buster, but it wasn't called a muscle buster yet. And Conan won the match with a top rope splash mountain bomb, or as Tony Schiavone called a power drop, and Conan won the match to retain the Mexican Heavyweight Championship, or maybe it might have been the AAA title. Now, the funny thing is, I mean, like I said, short time before his pay-per-view took place, Conan had joined the Dungeon of Doom. The funny thing is, Conan, as he's coming to the ring, they're playing his face theme that he debuted with in 1996, and I'm kind of bummed. I'm bummed out that WCW didn't bother to give it to somebody else. If you don't remember his theme when Conan debuted, it went something like this. Something with a guitar. That's most wrestlers' entrance music is something with a guitar. But the funny is, Conan gets the win, then they play the Dungeon of Doom theme. Weird. Okay, next up in a great singles match, we see Chris Jericho taking on Chris Benoit. The crowd was pretty hot for Benoit in this matchup, even though he was, I don't know if he was a heel or basically a tweener at the time. Benoit had an early advantage. He puts Jericho in a Boston Crab, which kind of was similar to the walls of Jericho that Chris Jericho's known for. Jericho with a rolling prawn pin, but Benoit kicked out of that. Jericho had a tiger suplex. Benoit hit his top rope signature headbutter. Jericho hit a Northern Lights suplex. Then he reversed a tombstone pile driver on Benoit. Hits a top rope Rana. And Benoit hits a top rope back superplex and pins Jericho to win the matchup. Great match these guys had. Next up, we see Super Calo challenge Rey Mysterio for the Cruiserweight Championship. Now, Super Calo, in my opinion, had the coolest mask out of all the luchadors in WCW. I wish I could have got my hands on that. I don't know if it's even made anymore. It was so cool. He had, like, sunglasses sewn into the mask, and he was, like, wearing a hat attached to it, seemingly. They started out on the mat to begin with. Don't know if these guys ever faced each other before. Calo did a slingshot powerbomb. He hit a top rope drop kick to Mysterio, who was out on the floor. Calo hit his signature senton to the floor. I enjoyed that move. And he did his signature top rope head scissors while Mysterio was perched on the top rope, or second rope. Calo eventually applies a short arm scissors submission hold. Nobody uses that one anymore. Then he puts Mysterio in a surfboard. Mysterio eventually came back with a somersault dive. Then he and Calo were on the apron, and Mysterio did a Hurricane Rana while off the apron to the floor. Well, he Hurricane Rana Calo off the apron to the floor. Mysterio hit a second somersault dive. I think Calo tried to backdrop Mysterio, but Mysterio countered with a Hurricane Rana. And then, in a great ending, Mysterio, he jumped from the other ring, did a triple jump Hurricane Rana to win the match. He was in the other ring. He launched himself from the other ring to the top rope of the second ring where Calo was in, and then Rana'd Calo, and Mysterio beat Super Calo to retain the Cruiserweight Championship. Super Calo, I thought was very talented, and much like all the other luchadors in WCW, he pretty much got wasted. It's a shame. Next up was the Nasty Boys, Brian Knobbs and Jerry Sags, challenging Harlem Heat, Booker T and Stevie Ray, accompanied by Colonel Robert Parker and, rest her soul, Sister Sherry. This was for the Tag Team Championship. The Nasty Boys were clubbering Booker or Stevie in the corner. That's what the late Dusty Rhodes would say about the Nasty Boys, double teaming in the corner. Later in the match, Sherry attacked Knobbs on the floor. Booker missed the Harlem sidekick, and I think he crashed himself on the rope. Sags had got tagged in. He gave Booker a pile driver. Parker, he tripped Sags while he was on the top rope with his cane. Sherry and Parker attacked Sags on the floor. Knobbs eventually got tagged in. Sags gives Booker a pump handle slam. Knobbs does a splash off the second rope, and Colonel Parker's up on the apron, and all this chaos with Knobbs, Stevie Ray, Parker, the referee distracted. Sherry took Parker's cane, hits Knobbs with it. Yeah, Knobbs with it while he had Booker covered, and Booker got on top of Knobbs and pinned him, enabling Harlem Heat to defeat the Nasty Boys to retain the Tag Team Championship. This match was not as good as the matches they had during the first half of 1995. They had good matches against each other in the first half of 1995, but this was not as good as any of them. Next up, we see Macho Man Randy Savage go one-on-one with the Giant, who later became the Big Show, and of course his real name is Paul White. Now, what happened was, nearly 2 weeks before this pay-per-view, the Giant joined the New World Order, and another Botchamania moment. The Giants is to come to the ring, but they're playing the Dungeon of Doom theme, and then they played what we all knew was the NWO theme. Giant initially tries to get in the ring, but Savage keeps stopping him, but once Giant got in the ring, he starts dominating. Savage starts making a comeback. He actually body slams a Giant, then he gives him the top rope elbow smash, but then Savage sees Hulk Hogan coming to the ring, and Savage leaves the ring to go after Hogan, but then out from the curtain come the Outsiders, Kevin Nash and the late Scott Hall, and they use a chair on Savage, then they carry him back to the ring, and the Giant was distracting referee Nick Patrick, and the Giant just pinned Savage to win the matchup. Then it was time for the main event, which was the two-ring War Games Steel Cage match, as it was scheduled to be Sting, Lex Luger, Ric Flair, and Arn Anderson taking on the New World Order, Hulk Hogan's, and the Outsiders, and we were wondering who the other man was going to be. Now, the Monday Nitro that aired right before this pay-per-view, it seemed that Sting had attacked Lex Luger and joined the New World Order. During an interview with Mike Today, the real Sting comes to tell Luger, Flair, and Anderson it wasn't him, and Luger says, I can't believe you, and I don't believe you, and Sting says, I'll see you in a little while. Now, the War Games match begins with Scott Hall, who came to the ring with Ted DiBiase, and Arn Anderson. They started out. Arn hit that forearm in the midsection. He applied a sleeper hold. Hall countered that with a back suplex. Arn hit his spine buster. Kevin Nash enters. He gives Arn a boot to the face, and he gives him the snake eyes from his Vinny Vegas days. Lex Luger enters the match. It seemed that he came out premature. Luger hits clotheslines galore on Nash and Hall, and running forearms as well. Arn gave Nash a DDT. Out comes Hollywood Hulk Hogan. As soon as short time after he comes in, Luger and Arn are double teaming Hogan, with the numbers game caught up with them. Until Ric Flair comes out, and Flair he's in one ring and he's taunting Hogan to come in the ring and go one-on-one right then and there. Hogan is like, Hogan sees Flair and he does this, as I say, I'm going to tear you apart. And then Flair does this silly gyration. I'm thinking, my God, I'm not going to show it to you on camera. I mean, if you've seen this pay-per-view, you know what I'm referring to. It's not the DX crotch chop, in case you're wondering, folks, but it's something no guy wants to look at, I'll tell you that right now. So, yeah, Flair and Hogan. Flair, he takes out a pair of brass knucks, nails Hogan with it, low blows Hall and Nash. He puts Hogan in the figure 4 leg lock, but then out comes the NWO Sting. And for those who don't know, it was who don't remember, that it was Jeff Farmer. That was his real name, but he had previously wrestled in WCW in the previous year under the name Cobra, claiming to be like a old enemy of Sergeant Craig Pittman, and his entrance music was Morse code. I'm kind of glad they scratched, even though he ended up the NWO Sting, I'm kind of glad they scratched Cobra, because I don't think he won too many matches as Cobra. And yeah, I'm not going to butter anybody up with the G.I. Joe references either. So, fake Sting enters. He's hitting these Stinger splash. He's not jumping as high as the real Sting, and he's not pounding his chest like the real Sting would. Nash eventually gives Lex Luger the jackknife powerbomb. Arn takes the outsider's edge from Scott Hall. Hogan gives Flair the leg drop, but then the real Sting enters. He goes right for the imposter, nails multiple Stinger splashes on every member of Team NWO, and then he walks out of one ring and he says to Luger, "Is that good enough for you? Is that proof right there?" And then let's just say he didn't give him a sight for the bird watchers, but let's just say Sting saluted Luger before walking out of the match. And then basically the NWO at that point, they capitalized. Hulk gave Luger the big boot and leg drop. The fake Sting puts a Scorpion Death drop on Luger. Scorpion Death lock, sorry. And then while he's doing that, Hogan puts Luger in like a front face lock, and both referees, Nick Patrick and the late Randy Anderson, and I don't know if Luger did submit or they just stopped the match because he didn't respond. And after the match was over, they continued. Luger, he's like crawling on his hands and knees, yelling, "Stinger!" And he's being attacked. Flair and Anderson trying to fight these guys off. I don't know where fake Sting went off to. Randy Savage, I don't know where he came out of. He goes after Hogan, brings him in the ring, but then the Giant, he comes back out. Not come back out because Giant wasn't on the War Games team. Gives Savage a choke slam, but then Elizabeth comes out and Hogan takes a spray paint, sprays NWO on the back of her dress. Hulk gets the microphone, calls Savage and Elizabeth lowlifes and losers, and Hogan seemingly spit on them. And then they spray painted NWO on Savage's back, and then Savage gets chokeslammed again by the Giant. And at that point, Giant and Nash, they're like both standing over Elizabeth in the corner. At that point, they took the camera off the ring, and you see Tony Schiavone, Bobby Heenan, and then Dusty Rhodes at the commentary table. But the NWO, they basically chased them off, ran them out, and Hogan calls Dusty a daydream believer. And as a result of the NWO, WCW had to meet their demands. And one of them was they wanted Steve McMichael's dog, and the Giant even said it on off camera. He says, "I want McMichael's dog." So, very good pay-per-view, and at the time, WCW was really flying high with the whole NWO faction and the cruiserweight division going. It's the WCW everybody knew and loved at the time. So let me know what your thoughts. You can just leave your comments on how great of a pay-per-view this turned out to be. And I will return in the future with more pay-per-view reviews.